Now, we just need to build 11 more that do the same thing. It's that time of the year again where we get to set up our arrows for all the hunts that we have coming in the year. And this year, we're hunting axis deer, antelope, elk, and deer, all with the same arrow. I'm always excited about a new setup, but you have to let me know what you think down in the comments. Around the same time last year, I made a video called Best Hunting Arrow 2023. And that's where I built this Victory VAP SS with a couple things in mind. I didn't want to be super heavy to where I was lobbing my arrows towards the targets. And I didn't go super light on the speed side because I wanted to make sure that it had enough oomph and penetration for whatever the arrow hits. So this VAP SS with 55 grain titanium insert and 150 grains up front, max hunter 3 degrees to the left. This setup served me very well. I was able to take 2 deer last year with this exact arrow, and both of them fell less than 150 yards from where I actually shot them. And last year, my main hunts were my whitetail hunts, where I'm not shooting past 50 yards at any animals like I very likely will be on an axis deer, an antelope hunt, or even an elk hunt. The buck I shot last year was the same one that I was glassing up in the summertime, and he came into our decoy at 47 yards. And Emmy and I practice out to 60, 70, and 80 yards all the time. The proficiency in actually executing the shot wasn't a problem. At 47 yards, I took a shot, but in the time it took for this arrow to get there, the deer had already moved another few steps, and it ended up hitting him back. Here's the actual broadhead that I was shooting. It is a Sever 2.0 Robusto. You would never wish to hit a deer further back than you want, but I'm so glad that I was shooting a broadhead that still got it done. He went 150 yards just into the tree line and fell over. This experience with my buck last year and all the research that I've been doing since last season really got me thinking, how much faster can I get an arrow flying? How much more accurately can I hit what I'm aiming at and still have the penetration power that I need? In this setup, I think it's just what I was looking for. So the arrow I'm shooting is the Easton Axis match grade long range. I'm going to be running AAE Max Stealth vanes in the back with a boning wrap and the brand new Easton match grade components up front. Total arrow weight on this setup that we are going to be shooting comes out to 454. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I was hoping to be shooting an arrow in the 440s, but because I'm going to be making a whole lot more videos and content on my hunts, I wanted a way to track the arrows better in flight. So the options I had was either go to a lighted knock or a wrap of some kind. So this wrap does make the back of the arrows heavier, but not quite as heavy as if I threw a lighted knock in there, and there's no durability issues like a lot of the lighted knocks still have. All right, so why this setup? So the 4mm is going to cut a little bit better through the wind. Also will arguably have better penetration because you're going to have less friction going through the animal. And why aluminum components in the front? I'll be honest, aluminum broadheads, aluminum components make me nervous, but the new Easton match grade setups that have the over shaft collar, they seem pretty rigid. Having a collar versus not on a typical titanium half out, like what I have here on the VAP SS, addresses a critical weak point on any arrow shaft. I've had titanium components where the component doesn't bend or break, but the end of the arrow where the component mounts into the arrow snaps. So what good is the titanium componentry with the very hard metals when the arrow can't hold that same rigidity? So I'm really hoping to see how these match grade collar half outs end up working out. The aluminum does make me a little nervous, but I'm excited to see how these fare throughout this entire season. All right, so let's dive into the process of building out my arrows. For me, I love diving into the tinkering aspect of archery, nock tuning, bare shaft tuning, walk back bare shaft tuning at distance. I will do it all. I'll float the arrows to find the spine. I'll use spine testers and spine align my fletchings to the arrows. But I've recently seen things from archers that are much, much better than I, and neither of them bother or spend time doing those things. So the two things I'm gonna prioritize when I'm building my arrows is weight matching them. I want them to all be within a grain or two, and spin testing them. So figure out which arrows spin the truest for my hunting arrows, and then use the rest for my range and practice arrows. So first thing we're gonna do is calculate an average weight over all of these shafts, and then find the 5 or 6 arrows that are closest to that average weight. .2 divided by 11, average weight. So I want to get all of my arrows as close as I can to 325 without fletchings or points. 324.7. Okay. So I now have these 9 arrows that are within my 1 grain tolerance of 325. These 2 were gross outliers, so they'll be marked as practice arrows. Okay, we're gonna fletch them all up. I've done plenty with the Bitzenberg, where you do vein by vein. Not only does that take just absolutely forever, but I prefer the max helical that you can get with the Arizona Easy Fletch Jig. This thing puts a gnarly helical on your veins, and that's gonna help steer your broadheads just a little bit better. It's gonna fight wind a little bit better. One of the nice things is that it takes a quarter of the time to fletch up a dozen arrows. Because I did not spine align these arrows, what I'm doing is copying what Bodie Turner does, and that's just aligning the nock with the Easton marking on the arrow, just so there's a degree of consistency. You gotta remember, the key to setting up arrows is making twins. These could all be pretty jacked up arrow setups, but as long as they're all exactly the same, it's the consistency that really counts. One thing you have to make sure of if you're using the Arizona Easy Fletch, make sure these veins stay seated all the way to the bottom of the jig. If they start to ride up on you, it can make for a goofy arrow setup. Got all of our arrows fletched up, including our 2 outliers. So all that's left to do, because I've added weight to the back of these veins, is weigh them again, write it down on the veins. Something I personally like to do to be able to keep track of it. Then I'll spin them all, figure out if there's any that don't spin very good, if there's any irregularities in the manufacturing. And I'm gonna number them 1 to 12, 1 being my favorite, 12 being my least favorite. And then I'll have a set of arrows that I can easily track throughout the seasons, figure out which ones are shooting the best, and reserve 1 through 3 for hunting specifically. Let's see what I'm doing here. Yep. Okay. 352.8, 354.5, 354, 353.2, 353.5, 353.5, 353.9. So now we'll go from lightest to heaviest. So So if we take a look, we got our lowest arrow weight at 352.8 and our highest at 356.5. So that means we have a disparity of close to 4 grains. But if we take the lightest arrows and our heaviest arrows as practice arrows, now we have less than 1.5 grains difference on this set of 8 arrows, which I don't know about you guys, but I can't shoot the difference between 1.5 grains on each of these arrows. I'm not that guy. Last thing to do is spin them, and then we got to put a sight tape together. Good, perfect. Money. Good, good. That one's pretty wobbly. Oh, it's perfect. That one's perfect. 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 Good. I must say, this is the first set of Easton arrows I've shot since I used to shoot like FMJs way back in the day, and one bad arrow in a set of 12 is pretty good. So thanks for making good stuff, Easton. We're gonna get the 20 dialed, try to get the 60 dialed, and try to get a sight tape on this thing. So we have our hunt in Hawaii coming up in just 2 days. So I need to make sure to get this thing dialed so I can start to broadhead tune it. Okay, there's our 20. Let's scoot back. New arrow setup's about blowing through the target. It's a double-edged sword. Here's 40. Let's just make sure we're not gonna completely miss the target at 60. Wow. That's right in the dead center of the dot. We gotta scoot back. So I shot that last one with my 40 pin. That was set up for my old arrows. That old arrow setup was on a 75-pound V3X, and the arrow was 447 grains. These arrows are 6 to 7 grains heavier. Oosh, way low. All right, I think we got it. Here's my first low one. Didn't hit the dirt, so that's good. But we're about sighted in at 60. So I got some rough marks for the beginnings of a sight tape. I still got 2 days to get everything dialed in as best as I can. So I've got a lot more shooting to do to make sure that I'm doing everything on my part to be as efficient and ethical as a hunter as I can. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know what you think of this setup down below. Right at 450 grains, shooting 80 pounds at 28.5-inch draw length. I'm really happy with where this arrow is gonna be. Make sure that you subscribe for the future videos that I have coming out. Again, we're gonna be going after axis deer, antelope, elk, and deer. So it's gonna be a really action-filled season. I hope that you guys enjoy tagging along with me. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, all the glory goes to God.